Today, I'm going to share with you a special ancient Greek technique or ritual that used to take place to awaken people from their slumber. Because for Plato, we were all sleepwalkers. Okay, we are all sleepwalkers going on automatic program, every day, same thoughts repeating themselves, more or less, stuck in the matrix, if you like, of the material world. And for the ancient Greeks, the way to awaken us from this robotic mode, from this slave mode, if you like, was through a practice that I'm going to be sharing with you today in the Eleusinian Mysteries, but you too will learn to be able to practice it at your house or in my groups, because you are a prisoner of your mind. And unless you realize that you're a prisoner of your mind, that you are a robot, you cannot wake up. So first you got to realize you're a prisoner in the prison of your mind, that you want to change some habits, that you want to change your life. You want to make things much better for yourself and for those people who you love. Join with me today. I'm going to teach you an ancient method from the Eleusinian Mysteries. And you're going to learn about a technique that has to do with your sound and your frequency. And once you awaken your sound and frequency, your vibration, that you'll be able to express yourself more freely, you will see how your whole life can transform. There is a ritual more powerful than history dares to remember. One that was practiced not in temples of gold, but in dark chambers, beneath the earth, in the Greek underworld of the soul. This wasn't metaphor, it was a forbidden technique. All right? Caves hidden underground. A ritual so powerful that those who returned from it were never the same. Even Socrates used to go every year, because once you've been through symbolic death, once you see what lays beyond the veil, you can't go back to sleep. They told the world it was myth. They called it poetry, poetic. They buried it in stories and myth. But beneath the masks of Orpheus and Persephone, beneath the drama of Dionysus and Elefsina, there was something else, a vibrational initiation that shattered the ego, pierced illusion, and made the soul remember. Not everyone was invited, not everyone survived it, because this was not an experience for the mind. It was a fire meant for those who were ready to burn and become awakened through the ashes, all right, like the phoenix. If this video found you, it's not by chance, because the Greek energy centers are vibrating again. They are awakening again. For many years they had been closed through Turkish Islamic domination. Later came Christianity, and now we're reawakening to the ancient secrets for awakening you and me from zombiedom. The Greeks didn't fear death, you see. They feared forgetting. Forgetting who you really are is the biggest problem. In the ancient mysteries, they said that the soul came from the stars, okay, and it fell into matter. And in that fall, it forgot. Not because it's weak, but because becoming embodied in the material world is a descent in frequency. It's like a sacred amnesia. And the body, it wasn't the enemy. It's the mask, the costume you wear, your consciousness wears to move through density. The ancients called the body a prison, but not to condemn it that it's bad or sinful, but just to remind you that it is a prison and there is a door that you need to open. All right? The key is inside us. The soul still remembers, not with thoughts, but with that silent ache you felt your whole life, that knowing that this isn't all there is. You are more than your name, your job, this body you carry. The Orphic Mysteries whispered of this captivity through hymns and symbols. You can Google those hymns, those ancient Greek Orphic hymns, because they knew that one day the soul would begin to stir. It would feel the vibration beneath the noise. It will heal the echo of the sound that was never spoken. And when that happens to you, you are going to begin the return to awakening, not to escape the world, but to remember who you were before you entered it. You were not born to be trapped. You were born to awaken inside the illusion and remember how to walk through the material world freely. And that's why this ritual is never taught openly, because it didn't work on those who want to feel special. It's only working on those who are ready to feel real, to be awakened. Not in schools, not in temples, because what happens here, it can't be taught. It can only be survived. This is the moment in the forbidden technique where everything you think you are begins to fall apart. In the Greek mysteries, they called it the dismemberment, not of the body, but of the self that you've been wearing since birth. Of course, this existed also in the Egyptian myths, okay, but these stories were transferred from Egypt, from Mesopotamia, from Babylon into Greece and channeled to the whole Western world. It's about Dionysus, who had been dismembered in many pieces, and the task is to bring together all those pieces. That's what these rituals do. They don't enlighten you, they shatter you into 1,000 pieces, because before the soul can rise, the false self, your ego, your fear-based ego, must fall. The initiate was taken into a chamber, not to chant, not to pray, but to be undone. There were no mirrors, only darkness, silence, vibration. And then the unraveling would begin. Not from the outside, but from within. Your stories, your ambitions, your masks, your roles, they would peel away like skin from an onion. And in that symbolic death, you wouldn't see angels. You'd see the parts of yourself you've buried your entire life. The envy, the fear, the need to control, the hunger to be admired, the emptiness behind your smile. This wasn't punishment. It was purification through vibration. Because the frequency of truth cannot rise in a body still carrying the weight of lies. And so the ego breaks, and the voice of the mind falls silent. And in that sacred silence, what rises isn't another identity. It's not a better version of you. It's the one you forgot before you were born. the one who never needed a name, the one who speaks without sound, the one who remembers. This is why the technique was forbidden. Not because it was dangerous to the body, but because it was dangerous to the illusion, to the system, to the story, to the voice inside you that was never truly yours. Because once you experience ego death, once the character collapses, there is no going back. No more pretending, no more performing, no more spiritual vanity and trying to bypass. Only vibration, only presence, only truth. And in that space, you don't feel enlightened, you feel empty. But that emptiness isn't absence, it's the clearing through which the sacred frequency will soon begin to flow. So now we're talking about Katabasis, the descent, not into hell, but into that hollow void inside of you where you have stored everything you couldn't face. This is Katabasis, the journey downward into the inner underworld. Orpheus walked it with his music. Persephone lived it in silence. Dionysus was torn apart by it, and every true initiate had to descend into it alone. There was no guide, no guru, no saving light. Only vibration, only memory, only echoes of every time you betrayed yourself to belong, of every truth you silenced, of every part of you that you've buried to be loved. Because this is not a path of answers, it's a path of mirrors. And in those mirrors, you don't see who you want to be. You see who you became to survive. This is why the ancient Greek ritual was hidden, because this descent isn't poetic. It's raw. It's wild. It's sacredly unforgiving. You feel it not in your thoughts, but in your gut, in your bones, in the tremble behind your voice when silence stretches too long and reveals what still hides beneath it. You won't find your like here, not yet, because before light rises, you must reclaim the pieces you left behind. The abandoned child, the rage you suppressed, the hunger for truth that you exchanged for approval. And as you descend, you begin to see something strange. None of it was ever evil. It was just exiled and waiting to be returned to the fire of your presence. This descent isn't punishment, it's the path to remembrance, because the soul can't truly rise until it has touched the very bottom of what it once feared to feel. And it's here, in the darkest place, where something unexpected begins to stir. A frequency, faint, ancient, unspoken. It doesn't offer salvation, it offers truth. truth. And it speaks not with words, but with the vibration of who you really are. Waking up in the silence. Now let's talk about the sacred ecstasy beyond thought. You thought you would awaken through clarity, through knowledge, through understanding with your logic. And that's one stage. That's stage one of the Agio method. But level 2 is on the subconscious level. You see, the soul does not rise in silence. It rises in ecstasy. Ecstasy. Okay, that means out of the stasis, out of the stillness. Ecstasy. They all reach the sacred, not through reason, but through surrender. Not through doctrine, but through vibration, experience. Because when the mind collapses, when identity dissolves, something begins to pulse beneath the silence. And it feels nothing like control. It feels like fire, like sound with no sound, like a music only the soul can hear. This is not joy. This is not bliss. This is sacred ecstasy, a state of pure vibration that happens not when you achieve something, but when you stop trying to become anything. It rises from your chest, from your spine, from the hollow of your throat, where your voice once held fear, but now only holds space. The ancients drank from the kikeon, this beautiful glass, a ceramic. But the true intoxication didn't come from the herbs, it came from the frequency they entered. Their bodies moved without intention, their minds floated without thought. They were no longer themselves. They were present, unfiltered, because when you go beyond thought, beyond belief, beyond the mask, what's left is what you've always been. And in that moment, in that vibration, you remember, not like a memory, but like a return, like a name whispered through the bloodstream. A soundless frequency so intimate you can't speak it, you can only be it. This is the ecstasy the ego cannot fake, because it doesn't come through effort, it comes through emptiness, through stillness, through having nothing left to defend. And in that naked silence, you vibrate with the divine, not as an idea, but as a reality that has no opposite. This is not a state you reach, it's a state you remember. That's why the word is called remembering, putting your members together. Beneath the mind, beneath the pain, beneath the voice that never belonged to you. And once you taste it, nothing else satisfies, because this frequency is the soul before the world. And it has been waiting for the moment that you finally let go of everything that is not you. Chapter now on the silent flame that can't be taught. No priest or priestess ever taught it. No scroll ever recorded it. No philosophy ever captured it. Because what happens here is not information being transferred. It's not insight. It's ignition. It's intelligence. deep inside the chest, beneath the layers of story and fear, beneath even the soul's memory of pain, there is a flame, not of fire, but a vibration, still, silent, unmoving, and yet more alive than anything you've ever touched. This is what the Greek initiates call divine madness, ieros panikos. But it wasn't madness, it was remembrance beyond the mind. They knew that the truth couldn't be spoken because the moment you try to explain it, it vanishes. This is why they used symbols, okay? Why they performed silent rites, while those who returned from the ritual never spoke of it. Because once you feel the invisible name inside you, once you taste the sacred silence that burns like a star, there is nothing to say, only to be. This is the flame you've always carried, but the noise of the world covered it. The ego feared it. The systems buried it. And now, here you are, feeling it flicker, feeling it pulse, not outside you, but from your own eternal center. You weren't meant to be told what you are. You were meant to remember it, according to the Greeks. And remembrance only happens when all the false lights go out, when the mind breaks, when the mirrors shatter, and only presence remains. This flame doesn't speak in words, it speaks in frequency, in stillness, in the space between your thoughts and the space beneath your skin. It is the sacred vibration that carries the truth that you were never supposed to forget. But you did forget it upon entering your mother's womb. And that was part of the plan. You see, only by forgetting could you one day wake up and recognize what was never lost. Okay? This is a little game that you've played, okay? This is the Greek technique, was not to control you, but to protect the sacred from ones who tried to exploit it before ever feeling it. Because this flame is not taught, it is felt, it is remembered. It is you without the veil. The unveiling of the inner temple, you were never meant to find this. And the fact that you're here is not by chance. We have a date with destiny here together. I am here to share with you the ancient Greek secret knowledge because, as they said, the Greek initiates knew the human body is not a burden. It was not a mistake. It was a mechanism of remembrance. Every bone, a column. Every breath, a hymn. Every silence, a doorway. And when the flame awakens, when the ego dies, and the soul begins to vibrate again, the temple reveals itself, not in form, but in frequency. You feel it rising in your spine. You feel it pulsing in your throat. You feel it humming behind your ribs, beneath your heartbeat, in the space where breath becomes present. This is not imagination. This is not visualization. This is vibrational architecture. Okay? Like the Acropolis, a living geometry encoded in your being long before you had a name. And that's why the ritual didn't require temples. Because once activated, you were the temple. This is where the Logos once lived, not as a word, but as a vibration that organized reality from within. The Eleusinian initiates knew this. The Orphic bards sang of it. The Dionysius dancers embodied it in their ecstatic dance. They weren't escaping the body, they were unlocking it, because only through the body could the soul begin to sing again. It is the instrument, a musical instrument. So it's not about transcending your humanity, but to remember the purpose of your incarnation, not to ascend away from earth, but to realize the earth was always sacred, and so are you, a divine being having a human experience. The technique was not an escape. It's a re-entry into your own structure, into the sacred space, the platonic form which you are, a multidimensional holographic being. This is why it was hidden, because if the world remembered altogether that every human body is a sacred structure of divine vibration, a virtual reality suit, it will no longer be controllable. It would no longer be afraid. It would no longer forget. The voice before language. Let's talk about the Logos. Before you ever spoke, you vibrated. Before you ever had words, you were sound. This was the secret the Greeks never wrote, that your true voice isn't made of language, it's made of resonance. The initiates didn't chant to be heard, they vibrated to awaken. Okay, the whole body needs to vibrate. It's not just the voice, because every sound you speak carries your frequency. Every word is an echo of what you allow yourself to feel. And the voice wasn't just expression, it was activation. The throat, Vishuddha in the East, but known to the Greek mystics as the gateway of the Logos, was not just a place for speech, it was the sacred bridge between vibration and creation, the sacred bridge. And those who passed through the Greek initiation discovered something unspeakable, that before all words, before all stories, before all names, there was a tone, a frequency, unique to your soul, unrepeatable, unteachable. And once you hear it, once you feel the pulsing behind your breath, everything changes. Because no voice that doesn't carry that tone can control you again. No story that contradicts that vibration can confuse you again. No system that denies this frequency can seduce you again. This is the voice before language. in the noumenal plane. It doesn't explain, it remembers. It doesn't seek approval, it vibrates truth. It doesn't perform, it radiates. You felt it once in childhood, in dreams, in moments where your voice trembled, but your soul burned through it anyway. That was it, trying to come back, trying to say the unspeakable, trying to awaken the sacred frequency that carries your real name. Because the true name of the soul is not spoken in letters, it is sung in vibration. And when you remember it, you don't need language anymore. You only need presence. Because presence is your real voice. And when it rises, everything around you begins to listen. Now let's go back to the remembering that burns. There is a kind of remember that doesn't comfort you. It doesn't soothe you. It doesn't caress you. It burns you. Because when the soul truly remembers, it doesn't come back as an idea. It comes back as a fire that knows exactly what is false. And once that fire is lit, everything untrue must collapse. The Greek initiates made this and knew this. That's why they said, you live to die before you die. Because only through symbolic death can you survive the full intensity of who you actually are. This remembering isn't gentle, it strips, it sears, it vibrates through your bones and shakes your nervous system again. Not because it's cruel, but because it's pure. Because the soul's original frequency was never supposed to fit into a life of compromise. You feel it in your chest, in your breath, in the throat that suddenly cannot lie anymore, in the heart that refuses to dim itself 1 second longer. And when that frequency takes over, you don't rise calmly, you rise like a wildfire, like a truth with no apology. This is why the technique was hidden, because remembering who you are would make you untouchable to the world's illusions, unmanipulable, unprogrammable, unwilling to shrink yourself for anything or anyone ever again. You don't just reclaim your soul, you reclaim your whole frame, your tone, your sovereignty, your divinity. You become unrecognizable to every version of yourself that came from fear. And the world, it begins to feel smaller, not because it changed, but because you've outgrown the illusions. This remembrance isn't for the faint-hearted, but if you're still here, you were never faint-hearted to begin with, huh? All of this has been a clearing out. Who has stayed this long are the real initiates. Congratulations on staying this long. You're on your path to awakening yourself. The others went back to sleep. All the zombies went back to sleep. All the prisoners went back into the cave. You are still here, so you get the big payoff. Now, you will be returning to your life after this video, but you will never be the same until we speak again. Something in your voice will be changed. after you return from this video. You may look like you did before, but your vibration now is no longer negotiable. This is why the ancients called it rebirth. Not because you started over, but because you came back with something the world couldn't give you and can never take away. You don't return to be understood. You return to vibrate silently in a world that has forgotten the truth, what it feels like. You don't argue. You don't explain yourself. You simply exist as a frequency that awakes up others through your presence without needing to speak a word. You are still human, you still breathing, but you've awakened to the fact that you are a divine being having a human experience, a temporary human experience. But the body is not you. You are the flame that burns, the voice before language, whispers. And your silence will speak louder than any words or song ever could. Your return is not about action, it's about alignment. You no longer seek the path. You are the path. You walk with the fire of remembering in your bones and the soundless tone of truth in your chest. And everything that is not real moves away from your field on its own. This is the end of the forbidden technique, not because it stops, but because it never ends. Once remembered, as you have today, this frequency lives in you, breathes in you, speaks through you without sound. The return is not a return. It is the first real step of a life led by a soul deep in gratitude, through vibration, not validation, by truth, not fear. And that is how the Greeks sealed the ritual, not with words, but with presence. And once you carry that presence, you don't have to prove anything. You simply walk through the world, and the world rearranges itself around you. Now the final activation. Remember, the tone was never lost. You walked through your tests, and you've made it through the tests and the obstacles to be here, right now with me, to have this message. So now you know that you are not broken, even though your body may be broken in some way, injured or having disease. You have returned now to your initial vibration, and that vibration was never gone. It was just waiting for permission to rise again, not from outside, not from doctrine, not from anyone, but from you, from your throat, from your flame, from the frequency that only you, soul, remember how to speak. So say nothing, silence, just breathe, and feel the sacred tone behind the silence. Together, inhale, exhale through the mouth, and activate through your breath the whole activation. Your activation is, I remember the sacred tone. Type it in the comments. Whisper it to yourself. Just type in, I remember my sacred tone. It's coming through me. I remember. You are remembering your soul. You were never just human. You were always a divine soul having a human experience, and you've reawakened, reactivated your original tone. But you're back now, and so are you. So you can never say that you have forgotten. No, you remember. As of today, you will always remember. I hope you join me again soon. Write in the comments anything, any questions. Just a friendly reminder, go to my website, it's in my profile, and you will find my weekly online Q&A where you can ask me whatever you like, and also my monthly retreats here on the Athens Riviera, very close to the Temple of Poseidon in Sunio, a beautiful sea cliff temple which we will visit when you come. Gya σας και καλό Σαββατοκύριακο. Bye bye for now.